Alien girl's plea. Can I pretend to be your wife? Liam Grayson had always prided himself on his ability to stay ahead of danger. As a seasoned space pilot, navigating through the unknown and surviving the chaos of the galaxy was second nature to him. But today was different. Today, the unexpected was about to knock on his door hard. Arcturus Station was a massive spaceport, an eclectic mix of towering spires and scattered structures from all corners of the galaxy. It was a hub for traders, travelers, and tourists, neutral ground where species from every system could cross paths. As Liam strode through the crowded concourse, he noticed the usual hum of activity seemed to be missing. The air was thick with tension, and people moved quickly, their faces tense, eyes darting from one corner to the next. Liam's boots clicked sharply against the floor as he weaved through the throng of travelers. His ship, Horizon's Edge, was prepped and ready to go. The cargo was waiting for delivery and there was no time to waste. But something didn't sit right. The atmosphere was too charged, too off. His senses, honed by years of navigating the dangers of deep space, were on high alert. As he passed a corner, his sharp eyes caught the movement of several armed figures. A squad of alien soldiers, black-armored, sleek, and imposing, moved purposefully through the crowd. Their weapons were clearly visible, and the way they carried themselves said everything. They were not here for a peaceful visit. Liam paused, his heart rate quickening. What the hell are they doing here? It was then that the station's announcement system crackled to life, blaring an emergency message. Red lights flashed overhead and a cold voice echoed across the station. Security alert. All civilians maintain current positions. Security alert. This is not a drill. His stomach dropped. Something's wrong, Liam thought, scanning the area for more signs of danger. He had heard whispers in the past about tensions between species, but nothing ever this intense. His instincts told him to get to his ship and fast. His fingers tightened around the strap of his duffel bag and he quickened his pace. As he rounded another corner, a flash of blue caught his eye. It wasn't the usual human shade. This was different, vibrant and shimmering in the harsh station light. A woman, her skin, soft blue and glowing faintly, shimmered like liquid under the artificial lighting. She moved swiftly, almost nervously, her long silver hair trailing behind her. Her eyes, large and expressive, darted from one side of the station to the other. She was clearly humanoid but not human, and there was something unmistakably alien about her. She looked out of place, her movements too deliberate and too graceful for the chaos around her. Liam's heart skipped a beat as their eyes met across the bustling station. For a moment, everything around him faded. The voices, the flashing lights, the confusion, it all seemed to blur. There was something about her. Then, as if caught by some unseen force, she turned and started heading straight toward him. Her gaze locked on his, and Liam felt his pulse quicken. This was no chance encounter. Before he could even make sense of the situation, a loud commotion behind him snapped him back to reality. A team of heavily armed station security officers, humans and aliens alike, pushed through the crowd, barking orders in various languages. They were closing in, their weapons ready, eyes scanning the area with precision. Liam didn't wait. Without thinking, he grabbed the woman's arm, pulling her into a tight, protective embrace. His actions were instinctive, driven by something he couldn't quite place, but the urgency in the air was too great. He needed to act fast. The woman stiffened for just a moment but then relaxed, her body melting into his as the security officers neared. "Play along," Liam whispered, his voice barely audible. His fingers brushed against the back of her head, his grip tightening as if they had known each other for years. The officers swept past them without even a second glance. They were too focused on scanning the crowd and securing the station to pay attention to a couple lost in a heated embrace. Public displays of affection were common in some parts of the galaxy, something humans had in abundance. It was enough to get them through without raising suspicion. Once the coast was clear, Liam pulled away slowly. his eyes scanning the crowd to make sure no one was following. The woman's heart was still racing in her chest, and Liam could feel the subtle tremor in her hands as she straightened up. "Want to tell me why you needed my help?" Liam asked, his voice calm but laced with curiosity. Her eyes met his again, deeper blue than any human's, beautiful but guarded. "Not particularly," she said, her voice smooth and musical despite the tension. "But I'm extremely grateful for your assistance." Liam raised an eyebrow. "I haven't exactly done anything for you yet." She gave a half-smile, her lips curling slightly at the corners. "True, but the fact you didn't hesitate to help a complete stranger says enough. I'm a Syra Nexus." Liam's instincts prickled at the mention of her name. Something about it felt important. The way she said it with such confidence made him pause, as though he was missing something big. "How do you know I have a ship?" Liam asked, eyeing her suspiciously. Asira gave him a look, one that seemed to see straight through him. "You're a pilot. Your boots are made for zero-G, your calluses are from manual flight controls, and you carry yourself like someone who spends more time in space than on the ground." Liam's eyes widened, surprised by her accuracy. She was right, of course, but how did she know so much about him? She was no ordinary person, no ordinary alien for that matter. Her gaze softened as she continued. "I need to be wherever you're going, and I'm guessing you could use a little help with what's coming next." Liam studied her for a long moment. Every instinct screamed at him to walk away. This was a mess he didn't want to be a part of, but there was something in her eyes that made him hesitate. He glanced toward his ship, then back at her, his curiosity now piqued. "What's in it for me?" he asked, his voice low. Her smile turned sly, and for the first time it wasn't just fear or desperation he saw in her eyes. There was something else there, something dangerous, exciting. Adventure, Captain Grayson, and perhaps a bit more. Liam frowned. "How do you know my name?" Asira tapped her finger against the identification chip on his chest. "It's right there." His mind raced. His decision was made, though he wasn't sure why he was about to take such a huge risk. "All right, Docking Bay 17. Try not to look like a fugitive." As they made their way through the crowded concourse, the weight of what he'd just agreed to hung heavy on Liam's shoulders. This was the start of something far bigger than just a quick trip through space. He didn't know it yet, but his life was about to change forever. The heart of the storm. The journey to Docking Bay 17 was anything but ordinary. The station's usual hum was replaced by a strange silence that seemed to stretch the corridors even longer than they were. As Liam and Asira moved through the crowded concourse, it felt as though the whole station had shifted, like it was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. And Liam had a gut feeling that something wasn't just waiting, it was coming for him. Asira walked with an easy grace, her blue skin shimmering faintly under the station's lights, as though she were part of the very atmosphere around them. She moved like someone who belonged here, despite the chaotic scene unfolding around them. Liam, on the other hand, felt the weight of every eye on them as they made their way through the bustling crowds. He had no idea what he had just signed up for. One moment, he was on his usual trade route, preparing to deliver his cargo, and the next, he was tangled up in something much bigger than he could have imagined. As they neared the docking bay, a sharp sound cut through the station's low murmur, a loud, shrill alarm. The flashing red lights returned, signaling an immediate lockdown. This wasn't just a security drill anymore. The station was in full crisis mode. Liam looked at Asira, who didn't seem fazed at all. Her expression remained unreadable, but her eyes, those deep, glowing blue eyes, had a hard edge to them now. Something was going down, and she knew exactly what it was. "Security lockdown," Liam muttered under his breath, keeping his voice low. "Something big is happening." She nodded but didn't say anything, her gaze flicking to the sides as they moved through the now deserted corridors. People were scattering, rushing to find shelter or make their way out of the station. The usual noise of the station, merchants peddling their wares, children running and laughing, had all been replaced by the heavy thud of boots against metal floors. And then it hit him, the flicker of recognition. The same alien soldiers he had seen earlier were closing in, forming a tight perimeter around the main concourse. This wasn't just some random threat, it was planned. A well-coordinated attack, and it was happening right under the noses of the station's security. Liam instinctively reached for his blaster, hidden in a holster beneath his jacket. He could feel the pressure building, the weight of the situation finally sinking in. There was no escaping this. Asira turned her head slightly, her gaze locking onto his as if she could feel his growing anxiety. "Stay calm," she said, her voice steady. "They're not looking for us yet." "Yet?" Liam asked, raising an eyebrow. "What do you mean by that?" "I have a feeling you and I aren't the only ones they're after," she replied, her voice almost a whisper now. "But if we move fast enough, we can stay ahead of them." Liam nodded, already calculating the odds in his mind. They weren't in the best position, but they had one thing going for them. Asira seemed to know what she was doing. Her confidence gave him a strange sense of reassurance, though it was hard to shake the feeling that he had just walked into a trap. The lights flickered again, and a voice echoed through the station, cold and robotic. "All personnel prepare for lockdown. All civilian ships remain docked until further notice." Liam cursed under his breath. His ship was still in the docking bay, but if the lockdown was enforced, it could be hours before he'd be able to leave. He glanced over at Asira, who had already started walking faster, her steps purposeful, heading straight for a maintenance corridor. "Come on," she said, glancing back at him. "We need to move." Without a word, Liam followed, his boots echoing softly as they turned down the narrow passage. The maintenance corridor was cramped, and the lights flickered erratically above them. It was a far cry from the open space of the concourse. As they made their way through the dimly lit passage, Liam couldn't help but feel the weight of the unknown pressing down on him. He wasn't just helping a fugitive anymore. He was caught in something much larger, something dangerous. The walls seemed to close in as they moved deeper into the maze of corridors. The sounds of the alarms echoed through the air, adding to the tension. They turned another corner, and suddenly, the noise of the station seemed to fade away, replaced by the quiet, almost ominous sound of their footsteps. "Where are we going?" Liam asked, trying to keep his voice steady despite the tension. "To your ship," Asira replied without hesitation. "But we need to be smart about it. The Draconian Syndicate has eyes everywhere, and they won't hesitate to destroy anything or anyone that stands in their way." Liam stopped dead in his tracks. "The Draconians, you're serious, aren't you? They're here." Asira's gaze hardened, and for the first time Liam saw a flicker of vulnerability in her eyes. "They've been hunting me for weeks, but right now it's not just about me. They're after anything I've taken, anything that could stop their plans." Liam didn't like the sound of that. The Draconian Syndicate was the stuff of nightmares, an underground criminal organization with connections and resources that stretched across the galaxy. They were ruthless, and anyone who crossed them didn't last long. "So what exactly did you steal?" Liam asked, his voice low. Asira hesitated, her fingers twitching at her side. "Information," she said finally, her voice tight. "The kind of information that could end their operation." Liam frowned. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about a battle that could change everything. A war, he realized, that had already begun, and he was right in the middle of it. As they reached a small access hatch, Asira glanced over at him, her eyes hardening with determination. "If we don't act fast, it'll be too late for everyone." The hatch slid open with a hiss, revealing a narrow tunnel leading to an emergency exit. Liam followed, knowing that their time was running out. The Draconians were close, and once they got a hold of Asira, it wouldn't matter who else was caught in the crossfire. But Liam couldn't walk away, not anymore. Whatever had started with that one impulsive decision to help her had turned into something much bigger, and now there was no going back. The storm was coming, and the only question left was whether or not they'd survive it. The hidden enemy. The hatch closed behind them with a soft hiss, and Liam found himself in the dimly lit corridor of the maintenance bay, his mind racing. The station's alarms continued to blare in the distance, but here, in the shadows of Arcturus Station, there was an eerie quiet. It felt like a waiting game, as though the whole station was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. Asira led the way with unwavering confidence, her steps quick but measured. She knew exactly where she was going, as if the layout of the station was etched into her mind. Liam, on the other hand, was trying to keep up, his heart pounding in his chest. His brain was already calculating the risks. Every instinct he had as a pilot screamed at him to get out of this mess before it got worse. The Draconian Syndicate. Just the mention of their name sent a chill down his spine. They were an organization feared by many, operating in the darkest corners of the galaxy. No one dared cross them and no one dared steal from them, but Asira had done both. "Why didn't you tell me about them earlier?" Liam finally asked, his voice low and edged with frustration. Asira didn't look back, her face still focused ahead as she navigated the narrow passageways. "I couldn't. You wouldn't have believed me," she said, her voice tight. "Not until you saw the kind of trouble I've gotten us into." Liam stopped, his hand on the wall, his mind struggling to catch up. "So all of this mess, this lockdown, it's because of you." "No," she snapped, spinning around to face him. "It's because of them." Her eyes locked onto his, intense and unwavering. "I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask to be hunted by the most dangerous criminal syndicate in the galaxy." He stood there for a moment, studying her. Asira wasn't a typical fugitive. She wasn't begging for his help or hiding behind some fake story. There was a raw honesty to her that made him believe her, even if he didn't fully understand everything. "All right," Liam muttered, pushing off the wall and walking towards her. "But if we're doing this, if I'm getting involved, I need to know exactly what you took from them. You said it was information, but that doesn't tell me anything. What exactly did you steal?" Asira hesitated for a fraction of a second. "Blueprints, classified data on a series of operations, and a plan. A plan to provoke a war between the Earth Alliance and the Galactic Council." Liam blinked. "Wait, what?" His mind reeled at the implications. "A war between humans and the Council? Why the hell would they want that?" "Chaos is profitable," Asira replied, her voice flat. "The Draconians are manipulating the tensions between Earth and the Council. They've been pushing both sides to the brink of war for years. The more chaos they create, the more control they gain." Liam's stomach tightened. He had always known that the galaxy was a volatile place, but this was on another level. The Draconians weren't just criminals, they were masterminds, pulling the strings of an intergalactic conflict. "So, you're saying they plan to start a war between humans and the Galactic Council?" Liam's voice had a bitter edge to it. "And you're the one who's been running with the only key to stop it?" Asira nodded, but there was no triumph in her expression, only weariness. "I didn't steal the information to stop them, Liam. I took it because I thought it would give me leverage. I didn't realize the full extent of their plans until it was too late." "And now they're after you," Liam finished for her, his eyes narrowing. "Which means they're going to do whatever it takes to get that data back. And if they find out you've been talking to me—" "I know," Asira interrupted, her voice tight. "I've been running, hiding, trying to keep one step ahead of them. But the more I run, the more dangerous it gets. I thought if I could get to Earth, I could warn them. But now I'm not so sure." Liam stared at her, his mind spinning. The stakes had just been raised to an entirely new level. He had thought he was just helping a stranger escape, but now he was entangled in something that could determine the future of the entire galaxy. "All right," he said, exhaling sharply. "We need to get to my ship. We need to get out of here." Asira's gaze flickered to the end of the corridor, where a flicker of movement caught her attention. "Not yet," she said, her voice low, tense. "We're not safe yet." Liam's instincts flared. He turned to look, his hand instinctively reaching for his blaster, but it was already too late. The sound of boots echoed in the distance, fast, deliberate footsteps, and then they appeared. Two draconian soldiers, their dark armor gleaming under the flickering station lights. Their eyes were cold, predatory. They had been following them. "Time to go," Liam muttered, stepping in front of Asira and reaching for the blaster at his side. But Asira's hand on his arm stopped him. "No," she said quietly. "We'll fight later. Right now we run." Liam hesitated, his gaze meeting hers. Something in her voice told him she wasn't afraid. She wasn't panicked. She had a plan. "Follow me," she said, and without another word, she turned and darted into a side passage, disappearing into the darkness. Liam hesitated only a moment before following. As he ran, he realized that this was no longer just about getting out of Arcturus Station. It was about something far bigger, something that could change the course of the galaxy. And now he was in it, whether he liked it or not. As they sprinted through the corridors, every step was calculated, every decision made in the blink of an eye. They had to move fast. The Draconians wouldn't give up easily, and if they didn't act quickly, they'd be dead long before they could warn anyone about the coming war. And as the distant sounds of Draconian soldiers echoed through the station, Liam knew one thing for certain. Asira Nexus wasn't just running from the syndicate. She was running toward a future that no one could predict. And if he wanted to survive, he'd have to keep up. The unseen hand. The station was a labyrinth. Even with Asira leading the way, every corridor seemed to twist and turn, as though the walls themselves were trying to obscure their path. Liam could feel the weight of the situation bearing down on him with every step. He hadn't signed up for this, not truly. But now, in the heart of Arcturus Station, he was all in, whether he liked it or not. As they moved deeper into the maintenance corridors, the sound of clanking boots and distant voices grew louder. Security was tightening its grip on the station, no doubt searching for Asira and anyone who might be helping her. The tightness in Liam's chest grew with each passing second. This wasn't just about evading draconian enforcers anymore. They were being hunted, and time was running out. "What's the plan?" Liam asked, keeping his voice low as he matched Asira's swift pace. She glanced back at him, her expression a mixture of resolve and weariness. "We need to get to the emergency dock. It's an old route, forgotten by most, including station security, but we're not the only ones who know about it." Liam's eyes narrowed. Who else knows about it? People who don't want to be found. Asira's voice was calm, but there was a hint of something else behind her words. Fear, maybe, or something darker. He wasn't sure. People like me. Liam didn't press her for more details. The more he learned about her past, the more complicated things seemed to get. She wasn't just some fugitive trying to escape a ruthless syndicate. She was a player in a much bigger game, one that Liam was now deeply involved in, whether he liked it or not. The tunnel they were in opened up into a small maintenance room, its dim lighting casting long shadows across the floor. Asira paused by a rusted access panel and began working quickly, her fingers moving with practiced precision. Liam kept watch, his hand never straying far from his blaster. "Are you sure we're going the right way?" he asked, glancing around nervously. "Yes," Asira replied, her voice steady. "Trust me, this is the only way we're getting out of here without running into any more trouble." The panel clicked open and she stepped aside, motioning for Liam to go first. He hesitated for a moment, then ducked through the narrow opening, his senses on high alert. The air felt colder here, and the walls seemed to close in around him. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. "Stay close," Asira whispered as she followed him into the darkness. "We're almost there." They moved quickly through the cramped space, each step echoing in the silence. Liam's mind raced, trying to piece together the puzzle that had led him here. Asira was a mystery, and the more he learned, the more tangled the situation became. The Draconians, the stolen information, the plans for intergalactic war, it was all so much bigger than he'd ever imagined. As they neared the end of the tunnel, Asira suddenly stopped, her hand flying to her mouth to stifle a curse. Liam's heart skipped a beat. "What is it?" "They've found us," Asira muttered, her voice tight. "The syndicate, they're here." Liam's pulse spiked. How could they know? They had taken every precaution. They should have been undetectable by now. But Asira wasn't looking at him. Her eyes were fixed on a small security panel embedded in the wall ahead, its blinking light an ominous warning. A small device was nestled underneath it, hidden in plain sight, a tracking signal, one that was far too familiar. Liam's throat went dry. "You've been tracked." She nodded, her face grim. "It's how they always find me. It's how they'll always find me." Liam turned to face her, his mind spinning. "You knew about this. You've had one of these on you the whole time." "I didn't know it was still there," Asira replied, her voice tight with frustration. "I thought I got rid of it." Liam cursed under his breath. Of course, there was always a catch. The Draconians weren't going to let their most valuable asset slip through their fingers so easily. "We don't have much time," Asira said, her gaze flickering over the security panel. "If they've activated it, they know exactly where we are. We're already too close to the surface. We need to move now." Liam didn't need any more convincing. He drew his blaster, checking the charge before securing it at his side. Asira moved quickly, her mind already calculating the next move. She punched a series of buttons on the control panel, and the security system buzzed to life. "Get ready," she said quietly. "We're about to be very exposed." Liam tensed, every muscle coiled as he followed her through the last stretch of the maintenance room. The silence around them felt suffocating. The stakes had shifted. Now, they weren't just running from syndicate soldiers. They were being led into a trap of their own making. Asira was right. The syndicate had eyes everywhere, and no matter how hard she tried to run, they always seemed to be one step ahead. The security system hummed with life as Asira activated the emergency exit, the door sliding open with a hiss. Beyond it, the moon's barren surface greeted them with cold indifference. They were close now, too close. The moment they stepped outside, they'd be in the open, vulnerable to the syndicate's relentless pursuit. But before they could make a move, a voice crackled over the comm system. It was distorted, static cutting through the transmission. "Asira Nexus," the voice said, low and menacing. "We know where you are. It's time to end this." Liam felt a chill run down his spine. The words were like a death sentence. The syndicate had cornered them, and the time for running was almost up. The door to the maintenance room slammed shut behind them with a deafening clang, locking them in. And then the lights went out. The devil's bargain. The silence that followed the complete blackout was suffocating. Liam stood frozen in the dark, his breath slow and deliberate, his senses stretched taut. For a moment he couldn't even hear Asira's breathing, only the deafening hum of the station's failing power grid. Then, a soft click broke the tension, followed by the faint glow of emergency lights flickering on above them. But the dim red glow only made things worse. It illuminated the darkness with a sinister, unsettling hue. Liam's instincts were screaming. The syndicate was closing in. They had to act fast, but now they were trapped. Asira's voice pierced the stillness, low but clear. "They've locked the station down. We're running out of time." Liam's mind was working at lightning speed, calculating their options. They were in the maintenance tunnel now, but the exit they'd been heading toward had disappeared into the shadows. No matter how many secret routes they had, no matter how many plans Asira had devised, the syndicate's reach was too vast. The space around them felt too small, too controlled. "Asira, what's the plan now?" he asked, his tone steady, even though his gut was twisting. She didn't answer right away, her eyes scanning the faint outline of the corridor ahead. "We need to get to the surface. If we can reach the emergency docks, we can make it off the station. But they'll be on us before we even get close." Liam glanced at her, his brow furrowing. "Then why the hell are we going to the surface?" She turned to face him, her expression hard. "Because it's the only place we can get help. I have one contact left on this station, someone who can get us out, but it's a long shot. If they know we're here, they know we're running, and they'll stop at nothing to make sure we don't make it to that dock." Liam's mind churned as he processed the information. Help? From who? He didn't trust anyone on this station, especially not with Asira's life and possibly his own on the line. Still, there was no time to argue. The walls were closing in. Without warning, the emergency lights flickered again, and the faint sound of boots echoed down the corridor. The security detail was already on the move. They were hunting them, methodically sweeping the station with the precision of a well-oiled machine. Liam didn't wait for Asira to make another move. "We move now, or we don't move at all." They sprinted forward, their footsteps the only sound in the eerie silence. As they rounded a corner, Liam's heart skipped a beat. Ahead of them, two draconian soldiers blocked the path. Tall, armored, and ruthless, their faces were impassive as they stood, weapons raised, ready to strike. Liam's mind raced. He wasn't ready for a direct confrontation, not here, not with the whole station on lockdown, but there was no other way. Asira stepped forward, her gaze steady, unfazed by the looming threat. "Stay back," she whispered, but Liam could hear the undercurrent of something else in her voice, a plan he hadn't yet grasped. The Draconians didn't hesitate. They raised their blasters, their fingers twitching to fire. Liam instinctively dropped into a defensive stance, his hand reaching for his own weapon, but before he could pull it free, Asira acted. In a flash, she reached into her belt and pulled out a small, sleek device. With a quick press of a button, a blinding pulse of light shot out, enveloping the two soldiers in a wave of energy. Their eyes widened in surprise, but the shock didn't last long. The pulse was enough to incapacitate them, temporarily. Liam watched as they dropped to the floor, their weapons clattering away, unconscious but alive. He exhaled sharply, relief flooding his chest, though the adrenaline still surged through his veins. Asira turned to him, her expression unreadable. "Let's go. We've got 10 minutes before the backup systems come online." Liam didn't argue. They were on borrowed time now, and with every passing second, the weight of their situation grew heavier. They moved quickly, ducking into another narrow passage, their footsteps muffled against the metal floor. As they reached the surface, Asira's hand hovered near a hidden panel. She hesitated, then looked at Liam. "This is where it gets tricky." Liam's eyes narrowed. "Tricky?" She didn't answer. Instead, she opened the panel, revealing a small, dimly lit comm station inside. The signal it broadcast was faint, barely detectable, but it was all they had. Asira quickly tapped a few buttons, her fingers flying across the console as she sent a series of encrypted messages. "They'll know it's us," Liam warned, glancing nervously at the door behind them. "How long before they trace the signal?" "Not long," Asira admitted, her voice tense. "Which is why I'm hoping my contact gets the message first." Liam looked around, his hand inching toward the blaster at his side. "You still haven't told me who this contact is." Asira glanced over her shoulder, her expression hardening. "Someone who owes me a favor, someone who can get us off this station. But if they don't—" She stopped herself before finishing the sentence. "Then we'll be in even bigger trouble," Liam finished for her, the weight of her words sinking in. Just as she finished sending the last transmission, the console beeped with a response, an encrypted message flashing across the screen. Asira's fingers flew over the keyboard, decrypting it in seconds. "It's from them," she said, her voice low. "They're on their way." Liam felt a surge of hope. "That's good, right? We've got a way out." Asira didn't answer right away. Instead, she read the message one more time. Her face was unreadable, the expression shifting like shadows. "They're not here to help us," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam's stomach dropped. "Then who are they?" Asira looked up at him, her eyes darker than before. "They're here to make sure I don't make it off this station. They're the ones who sent the Draconians after me." Liam's blood ran cold. He'd been played. The edge of the abyss. The floor of the emergency dock was cold beneath Liam's boots, a stark reminder that this place had been abandoned for years. The quiet hum of machinery was the only sound that filled the hollow space around them, broken only by their breathing and the distant echo of approaching footsteps. The air smelled faintly of oil and dust, a far cry from the bustling, well-maintained corridors of the main station. But right now, it felt like the safest place in the galaxy, or perhaps the most dangerous. Liam glanced at Asira, her face lit by the flickering lights of the forgotten dock. The glow in her eyes had shifted from resolve to something else, something deeper. Tension gripped her every movement, as if she could feel the weight of what was about to unfold. "We're out of time," Asira whispered, her voice carrying an edge of urgency. "They'll find us here any second." Liam's heart pounded in his chest, a heavy thud that seemed to sync with the ticking clock. The syndicate was closing in. The encrypted message had been a lie. The contact Asira had hoped would save them wasn't coming. They had been set up from the start. Now they were facing an even darker reality. "How long until they lock this place down?" Liam asked, scanning the shadows, his hand hovering near his blaster. The silence around them was suffocating, as if the station itself was holding its breath. "Minutes," Asira replied, her voice tight. "We can't afford to wait." Liam turned toward the massive, rusted airlock doors ahead of them. Beyond them, the cold void of space waited. It would be their only way out, but there was a catch. The airlock system was locked down, and the only way to release it was through the central security panel at the far end of the dock. The catch, the security panel, was heavily guarded. Liam didn't even need to ask. Asira already knew what he was thinking. "Stay close," she said, her voice low and steady. "If we're going to make it out of here, we'll need to get past them first." "How?" Liam shot her a glance. "That panel's swarming with syndicate soldiers." Asira didn't reply right away. Instead, she moved towards the far wall, her fingers working quickly on the control panel embedded there. "I've been planning for this," she said, her face betraying no emotion. "I've got a way in." Liam watched as she worked, her hands a blur over the interface. Despite the tension in the air, her movements were smooth, deliberate. She'd clearly done this before, too many times to count. "How many of them are there?" Liam asked, keeping his voice low as he scanned the shadows once again. "3 guards by the security panel, plus whoever's coming behind us," Asira muttered under her breath, her focus unwavering. "But we don't need to fight them. We need to get the element of surprise." Liam raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Surprise?" Without a word, Asira pressed a button on the control panel, and a small hatch above them slid open. Inside was a sleek, small device, something Liam hadn't seen before but recognized instantly for what it was: a disruptor. The kind of technology that could scramble a station's security systems for a few crucial minutes, enough for them to slip through undetected. Asira held it up, her eyes cold. "This should buy us the time we need. When I activate it, we'll have exactly 5 minutes before they figure out what happened." "5 minutes," Liam muttered, his gaze flicking to the distant security panel. 5 minutes to make it past 3 syndicate guards and get to the airlock. No pressure. Asira didn't smile, but her eyes held a spark of something he hadn't seen before. Determination, yes, but also something darker, a kind of resignation that made Liam's gut twist. She had been here before, maybe too many times. "Let's move," she said, her voice sharp but with an undertone of something like relief. Liam didn't question it. He knew this wasn't a time for hesitation. They had no choice but to move forward. He followed her as she slipped into the shadows, her footsteps silent, calculated. The seconds felt like minutes, and the minutes stretched endlessly as they crept closer to the guards. Liam's hand tightened around his blaster. Adrenaline flooded his veins as they neared the security panel. The three syndicate guards were still focused on their posts, unaware of the danger creeping up behind them. Asira motioned for him to stop. She was still scanning the security panel. There was a moment, just a moment, when Liam thought they were going to get caught. But then Asira activated the disruptor. The lights flickered. The hum of the station's power grid stuttered, and then everything went dark. The low buzz of the security system died. The guards didn't move for a beat, confused by the sudden malfunction. "Now," Asira whispered, her voice barely audible, but with a quiet command that sent Liam into action. Without a second thought, Liam darted forward, his feet light and swift on the metal floor. He moved past the guards like a shadow, barely noticed as Asira followed in his wake, her presence almost non-existent. The two of them slipped past the guards in a fluid motion, the silence between them growing heavier with each step. They reached the security panel, and Asira worked quickly, her fingers flying over the console, bypassing the lockout codes with practiced ease. Liam kept watch, his heart pounding in his chest, aware that every second they spent in this dock was a second closer to being caught. "Got it," Asira muttered, her voice tight. The airlock doors ahead of them creaked open slowly, revealing the cold emptiness of space beyond. It was both a promise of freedom and the most terrifying thing he had ever seen. Liam turned to her, his gaze locking onto hers. "You sure about this? Once we're out there, there's no going back." Asira didn't hesitate. "There's no turning back from any of this, Liam, but we're going forward together." Without another word, they stepped into the open airlock, the doors closing behind them with a hiss. As the station's lights flickered back to life, they had only one thought in mind: escape. But as they strapped in, Liam couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. The syndicate was still out there, and they were going to make sure that Asira, and everyone connected to her, paid the price. But for now, in the cold vacuum of space, they had a fleeting moment of peace, at least until the next fight began. The price of survival. The airlock door hissed shut behind them, sealing off the station and its endless maze of corridors. Liam Grayson exhaled, the weight of the last few days crashing down on him all at once. His body was sore, every muscle aching from the non-stop tension, the constant running, the adrenaline-fueled moments that had kept him on the edge. But now, as the ship's engines thrummed to life beneath him, there was a strange calmness to it all. The horizon's edge was away from Arcturus Station, drifting into the safety of open space, but something told Liam that peace was a fleeting illusion. Asira stood beside him in the cockpit, her posture poised but rigid. Her eyes were fixed on the stars outside the viewport, but they lacked the gleam of triumph. Instead, there was something darker, something that weighed heavily on her shoulders. "So we made it," Liam said, his voice rough from days of stress and strained conversations. His eyes briefly flicked to the navigation system, confirming their course was set for deep space. The horizon's edge was free for now, but that sense of relief was short-lived. They were heading toward an uncertain future, one where every turn could lead to betrayal or worse. Asira didn't respond immediately. She seemed lost in thought, her silvery hair softly glowing under the dim cockpit lights. Liam had learned that silence from her, moments when the world outside could fall away, and she'd retreat into herself, hiding from the weight of what was still to come. After a moment, she turned to him, her face solemn. "You don't know what you're getting into, do you?" Liam's brow furrowed. "I know what I've been through, and right now that's all that matters." But Asira shook her head, her eyes shadowed with something Liam couldn't quite place. "You think it's over, but the real danger is just beginning. The Draconians won't stop until they get what they want. Liam clenched his fists, the anger rising within him again. The Draconians, an organization so vast, so deadly, that entire worlds had bowed to their will. And now they were the ones hunting him and Asira, their lives hanging by a thread. "I didn't ask for any of this," Asira said quietly as though reading his thoughts. She turned away, staring out into the vast nothingness of space. "But I don't have a choice anymore. You've made it personal. They'll come for you too, Liam. No one is safe when the syndicate is involved." Liam didn't speak right away. He watched her closely, the hard edge in her voice cutting through the silence. It was the first time he had seen her so vulnerable, so uncertain. He had always seen her as the one with all the answers, the one who knew how to survive in a galaxy full of enemies. But now he saw the cracks. "What are you saying?" Liam asked, his voice quieter now, the calmness settling between them. Asira turned to face him, her expression pained but resolute. "I've stolen something more than just data. I've stolen the future. The Draconians, what they're planning, it's bigger than we thought. If they succeed, they'll start a war that'll destroy everything." Liam felt a knot twist in his stomach. The stakes had just gone from bad to catastrophic. A war between who? "Humanity and the Galactic Council," Asira replied, her eyes darkening. "They've been manipulating both sides, playing a dangerous game of brinkmanship. The data I took, it's not just about exposing them. It's about stopping them before it's too late." Liam's pulse quickened. He'd been warned, sure, but now he was beginning to understand the true scale of what was happening. "You stole this information to stop them, to stop a war." Asira nodded slowly. "Yes, but it's not just about the war, Liam. There's something worse coming, something even the Draconians fear." Liam leaned forward, his gaze intense. "What do you mean? What are you talking about?" Asira hesitated, her hands tightening around the edge of her seat. She had seen something, felt something that Liam hadn't. "There's a power out there, an ancient force, older than the Council, older than the Syndicate. The Draconians are trying to awaken it. If they succeed, it'll be the end of everything, the galaxy as we know it." Liam's mind raced, trying to piece together what she was saying. An ancient force, a power they can't control. "You're not making sense," Liam said, his voice sharp. "How could something like that be real? Why didn't you tell me this before?" Asira took a deep breath, her expression weary. "Because I didn't want you involved in something you couldn't understand. I thought I could handle it myself, but I was wrong. The Draconians are getting closer. They're more dangerous than I realized." The weight of her words settled in the cockpit like a heavy, suffocating fog. This wasn't just about escaping Arcturus Station anymore. It wasn't just about surviving the Syndicate. It was about stopping something that had the potential to rewrite the future of the galaxy itself. Asira straightened, her voice steady once more. "We don't have much time. The Draconians will find us. But there's one more thing I need to do, one last piece of the puzzle." Liam's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" Asira turned back to the navigation console, her fingers flying over the controls. "I need to deliver the data to Earth intelligence. They're the only ones who can stop the Draconians. We have to get there before it's too late." Liam hesitated for a moment. "And if we do?" Asira's gaze was unflinching. "Then we're all doomed." Liam stared out into the black expanse of space, the weight of the universe pressing in on him. The stars outside seemed distant, unreachable. But this mission, it was real. It was the last chance to stop something far greater than they could ever have imagined. As the horizon's edge broke free from the gravitational pull of the station, Liam knew they were heading straight into the heart of the storm. But there was no turning back now. They had crossed a line, and the only way out was forward. With Asira beside him and the universe against them, Liam gripped the controls and steeled himself for the fight ahead. The Draconians were coming, and this time there would be no running. But the galaxy, it was worth fighting for. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon for more amazing videos.